This lecture is on graphing linear functions by Dr. Archie Earl. These are the steps that are involved in graphing linear functions. Step number 1, find and graph 2 points. Step number 2, draw the line through the 2 points. Let's look at an example so that we can see exactly how these steps work. Suppose we want to graph this function, f of x equals 3x minus 5. First of all, we recall that f of x is the same as y. So that means that we can write this function as y equals 3x minus 5. Once we do that, we can make a solution table. We can choose any 2 numbers we want to for x, and then substitute those numbers into the equation and find y. As you can see by the table I have here, I have chosen 0 and 1 for x. You can choose any 2 numbers you want to. You don't have to use the 2 numbers that I use. I chose 0 for x. I substitute the 0 into the equation. I get 3 times 0 minus 5 equals negative 5. So my first point is the point 0, negative 5. Secondly, I substitute 1 for x in the equation. I get y equals 3 times 1 minus 5. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 minus 5 will give us negative 2. So my second point is 1, negative 2. Now, all I have to do is graph those 2 points and draw a line through those 2 points. And that will be the graph of my linear function. The linear function is always a straight line. So I've graphed my 2 points. My first point is 0, negative 5. I start at the origin. I go 0 to the right or left because that's the x-axis. And I go down 5. And that's where I put my point, at negative 5. I went down because it's negative, and I put my point there, as you can see. My other point is 1, negative 2. The 1 is positive, so I start at the origin. I go 1 to the right. And then the negative 2, that's negative, so I go down 2. And that's where I put my second point. It only takes 2 points to determine a straight line. Now all I have to do is draw a line through my 2 points. And you can see that I've done that. And that's the graph of that linear function. Notice also that I have arrowheads on each end of that linear function because the linear function goes indefinitely in both directions. So there's no limit to the x's. X can continue indefinitely to the right and the left. So the domain is represented by x. So x can go from negative infinity to positive infinity. It can go indefinitely to the left because that's where the arrow goes, indefinitely to the left and indefinitely to the right. So that's why we have the domain from negative infinity to positive infinity. And that's what we usually have for a linear function. The range is the same. The range, it can go down indefinitely, and the graph can go up indefinitely. So the range also goes from negative infinity to positive infinity. Indefinitely in the negative direction, indefinitely in the positive direction. So once again, that's what we have for the linear function. For homework on the linear function, on page 416, you want to do problems 47 and 48. Those 2 problems. And you have to pass them in for homework at our next class meeting. Have a great day. Bye now.